welcome to everyone who is watching us either live or on YouTube or in the replay. My name is Robin Forster, and I would like to welcome you to today's Feel So Alive Informed. And the reason that I'm doing this, and I'm looking down at my notes if you're wondering what's going on, I started doing Facebook Lives because my mentor, Jasmine Starr, said to. She said, go do some lives. And I thought, okay, I will. Why not? And so I did, and I was really enjoying them, and then COVID hit. And I realized that there was information that a lot of folks, small businesses, needed, and information that we all needed in terms of healing and doing the best that we can given the times that we're in. So I really switched the program. And so now what it is I have two different guests that I have come speak, and you'll see, oops, I'm still learning how to do that. Our two guests today are Dr. Melanie Carlone, and she's going to be talking about breathing, which is really important just in normal times, but now our lungs and taking good care of our lungs is super, super important. So she's coming back again, and she's got some fascinating tips to share with us. And then a friend of mine, this is going to be our business person today, Dr. Jamie. Now I was thinking about someone else that I was listening to earlier this morning on a podcast. Jamie Young is the queen of swag. And I know a lot of us are thinking, oh, swag, why now? You know, what's the point? But there are still lots of virtual conferences happening nationally, and I'm assuming globally. And so swag is still an important thing. It's just pivoted and changed. So Jamie is going to talk to us about that and how that works. And I think that you will find both speakers are fascinating, and of course they're sharing tips with us. So let's go ahead and listen to Dr. Melanie Carlone. Hi, I'm Robin Forster with Feel So Alive and Feel So Alive Informed, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I know that most of you know that I'm a solo entrepreneur, and I'm fascinated with health and wellness, and especially aging. And one of the things that I realized was that I was not breathing the best way that I could for my body. So Dr. Melanie Carlone has agreed to come back and talk to us. She was here April 17th, and we're going to spend almost our whole time letting her talk to us about breathing and how we can take care of ourselves in a better way. Before I officially welcome her to the platform and turning the mic over to her, I just wanted to tell you all a little bit about her. She is a clinical physical therapist and a devoted health educator who draws on broad East-West integrated health approach. She's traditionally trained as a Navy physical therapist and founder of the Health Promotions Program at the National Naval Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. And she harnesses both sound scientific training as a movement specialist, alignment educator, and also neuromuscular pain reduction specialist. And Melanie is fascinating, as you all will see when we get into this, but she also was a former Peace Corps volunteer in Zaire, Africa, and she returned there to live and work in Africa and Asia for many years. So she has learned a ton about healing and alternative healing and alignment. So Melanie, if you would say hi to everyone.
Hi, greetings. Pleasure to be
Excellent.
here. Thank you, Robin. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just so glad and excited that you were able to make time for us today. So talk to us about breathing and alignment and what it is that we can do and the things that we're not realizing that we're doing that are not in our best interest.
Right. Well, breathing's so automatic that we rarely think about it, and yet it's one of the keys into your nervous system. So you can actually, a little kid gets a tantrum, he's going to hold his breath, and that will have results. When we're anxious and have rapid breathing, we can slow our breathing and affect a change in our bodies. So breath is an enormous tool that we have to control and regulate our nervous system. But the fact of the matter is that the way we live now, modern living, has done an awful lot to take us away from our natural alignment and how we would function if we were doing what we were designed to do over millennia, which is to be walking many miles a day, having brief periods of intense activity followed by a lot of rest. Most of us never know what that feels like anymore, although the great pause has made a difference with that. but now we're sitting more at computer screens and that sort of thing. So I wanted to focus our talk today specifically on breath and how altering your breathing and what modern living can do to your breathing can be causing an increase in anxiety and a general feeling of unwellness in people. So we're designed to actually have a very specific positioning of our rib cage. And so I'm going to go back and look at my friend here. In general, we have a very specific design of ear, over shoulder, over hip, over the front of our foot. And when that position is there, your rib cage is able to expand front and back and side to side with natural breathing. Then if you have to get on the run and you have to run after something or run away from something, you use accessory muscles to assist your breath, lifting the upper ribs and giving you that extra push that you need. Unfortunately, what's happened is many of us have fallen into the habit of breathing with our accessory muscles, which basically tells the nervous system, there's something wrong here. You need to be working. You need to be in alarm. And so there's an underlying chronic unwellness and sense of dis-ease or unease, I guess I would say, that kind of breathing engenders. The other really important bit is that, I'm going to grab my little skeleton here so you can see a little more clearly. When you have that normal alignment of ear, over shoulder, over hip, you have a gentle inward curve in the neck. Okay, so we're meant to have an inward curve. This guy has got a pretty straight spine. And when that curve is there, I don't know if you can see these little red lines here. This is a very important artery that runs on both sides of the neck called the vertebral artery. And it runs up from the arch of the aorta up into the brain. And it's one of the most common arteries that people have strokes in. There's a variety of reasons for that, but one of them is that posturally, when we're bending forward, peering at our computer screens, the musculature that runs at the front of the neck from here to here becomes short and tight over time. So when you see people walking around and their head is not over their shoulder, but they have a forward head, which is very common nowadays, that shortening here puts extra pressure on the vertebral artery that runs up to the brain, potentially increasing your likelihood for stroke. Also decreases the amount of blood flow, healthy blood flow into the brain, because when your head is over your shoulders, that hole inside of the vertebral artery canal there is maximally opened. When you're peering head forward and this becomes shortened, that all gets reduced. Add on top of that the accessory muscles that come from the top of the rib cage up to the sides of the neck that you're breathing with that you shouldn't be breathing with. When those are short and tight and activated, people really have a problem. So what do we do about that?
Well, how can we tell? How can we self-diagnose?
Oh, good. Thanks for asking. So let me have you, Robin, go ahead. Actually, let me shut this window. The sun is right in my eyes.
But it's so hard being in Western Oregon to ever complain about sunshine.
I know. I wasn't complaining. So if you take your hands, just lightly put your hands on the sides of your neck, fingertips on your collarbones. And I want you to just now relax your back and take a deep breath. In a healthy deep breath, you should really not feel movement under your fingers. Press a little bit firmer and feel again. If you feel muscles immediately coming up under your fingers, you're a neck breather. How is that for you?
Yeah, I'm not feeling it right now, but I'm also standing up and very conscious of what you're doing and trying to move my weight back onto my heels instead of onto the ball of my foot. And so I wonder if I'm getting my alignment better, and that's why I'm not feeling it.
You're also pretty conscious, so, and you and I have worked together over time. I don't think that you are a neck breather. But somebody who has chronic forward head and is very shortened here tends to breathe with their neck. And usually you'll feel the muscles come up right away. Using your hands as a cue, if you do feel those muscles, you can really focus, it's easier to do when you lie down, on taking a deep, full breath and not having the muscles of your neck activate. So that's a feedback mechanism that you can use to start to break that cycle of neck breathing. Okay, so that's one of the ways that you can do it.
Excellent.
Remember, with deep, full breaths, you should feel those muscles kick in. So let's go ahead and take another breath again, fingertips here, and take a deep, full breath. And now sip in just a little more air. And as you sip in that last bit, there you're going to feel those scalenes kick in, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so what they're doing is they lie in the upper 2-3 ribs, and they do that extra little lift. That's meant to be. You're supposed to have that, but it's only supposed to be when you're really pushing the extra tidal volume of your lungs. What happens very often, as I said, with poor positioning and chronic forward head and anxiety and all the stress that we have in our lives and our jobs, we tend to start neck breathing. And then that becomes a negative feedback loop. When you breathe with your neck, it's telling your body, uh-oh, the lion's coming, except there's no lion that you're running away from. You just feel like there is. And so that anxiety level gets increased, and your sympathetic or your fight and flight part of the nervous system is kicking in. So being able to reduce overall that neck breathing can also really help soften or increase the parasympathetic, the rest and relax part of the nervous system. So that's a really important bit. That was a great question.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. So decompression breathing. So I want to offer up, this is so interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Having lived in tribal Africa, I was really privileged back when there were no cell phones, and I was really far out into the bush, living amongst tribal, the Kuba tribe in central Zaire. The way of living was so different than it is here. And it was not uncommon for me to walk 4 to 6 hours a day. Working with farmers, I was helping raise tilapia, and we would walk, and I would watch these farmers on very little food, very little water, walk and walk and walk and walk. And the key was the elegance with which they walked. There was a relaxed, upright alertness. You never saw people with forward heads. You never saw people hunched over. Even elders were very upright because of this habit that we have of built within our bodies, our inherent blueprint to be upright and walking. Many people walk in my clinic, and I see right away where the dysfunction is because they're so far off of that mark. And so a lot of the work that I do is to help people get back to what's a blueprint is already in their body, so that they can reattain that natural sense of ease in the body. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but usually just a little bit in that direction makes a significant difference in reducing pain. So one of the main things is how to restore that length in the rib cage. So we're going to do a practice here called decompression breathing. And I want to thank Dr. Eric Goodman, who's a wonderful chiropractor who teaches something called foundation training. You can find him on YouTube. He's got a series of wonderful videos out. And this decompression breathing is not, he teaches it very well. His YouTubes teach it well. I mean, it's something we all learn in physical therapy school, but he does a great job of it. So let's talk a little bit about decompression breathing. So if you want to, you're already standing. So I'm going to have you bring your thumbs onto your lower ribs and your fingertips. Let's see if I can bring this down here a little bit. Your fingertips onto the top of the hip bones. And what you want to do, our typical posture tends to be kind of collapsed like this. So I'm going to have you focus on inhaling. And as you inhale, you're going to lengthen your ribs out of your hips. So the front of the body lengthens. Importantly, though, you're also increasing your width front to back. So now bring your fingertips, your thumbs on your back ribs and your fingers on the front, and feel as you breathe in the widening of the rib cage, both top to bottom and front to back.
But not raising the shoulders, right?
Thank you. Shoulders have nothing to do with your rib cage. They are literally like a general's epaulettes. If you think of a general's uniform with those big things on, they just sit on top of the rib cage. And yet so many of us attempt to hold ourselves up or back using the shoulders. It has nothing to do with the shoulders. It's this feeling of lengthening front to back, and bottom to top. So with decompression breathing, you take really big breaths. So you feeling the back ribs flare, feeling the rib cage lift out of the pelvis as long and tall as you can. You'll kick in the neck muscles. And then, this is the exercise part, on the exhale, let everything relax, but stay long. That's where your fingertips in that position can give you feedback because you don't want to collapse them. And
That
so
is really challenging to
it's
do.
really hard to do. But interestingly enough, with consistent practice throughout the day, and there's another series of, I'm going to show you something called the founder position, again, that Dr. Goodman teaches, so useful. You can learn to move, to sit, to do the work that you need to do, keeping this length. Now, the beauty of learning this is that as you practice decompression breathing, the body learns to settle back into a more normal stance. And a lot of the downsides of being at a computer and what modern living does to us start to be reduced and ameliorated. It can make such a difference. Okay, so
Wow.
I'm going to stand up one more time.
Okay. And
With
I'm looking at the clock because I don't want to overstay our welcome.
thank you. Okay, so decompression, front to back, top to bottom, holding that, and then learning how to extend your body while you keep the length. Most of us do this kind of rounding, and this is where that forward shortened position affects breath. So learning to stay long, being able to move your arms and keep long in your torso can do a tremendous amount towards moving you back into the kind of posture that you're designed to have.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This has just been amazing. I appreciate all of your time and sharing your information with us.
You bet, Robin, and thank you for doing what you do. It really does feel so alive when you actually take it to this kind of level. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. Wasn't that incredible? Have you tried that? I have been using YouTube to follow Dr. Eric and his breathing, and he has one exercise on YouTube that he put together for Lance Armstrong, and today was the first time in about a month or 6 weeks that I was actually able to finish the whole exercise, and it's only about 11 minutes long. It's not huge. So go check that out. And now I hope you can see why I asked Dr. Carlone to come back again and share with us about breathing and things that we can do at home to help our breathing, because as we know, we want to take care of our body because we want to boost our immune system, and making sure we get oxygen in is really a good idea. Okay, next I would like to transition us over to something else that we're planning tomorrow. And if you're watching this on the replay, we're doing it Friday, and then we have another pop-up coming up on the 20th of October and another one at the end of October. But if you just go ahead and go to bit.ly Health Bites, you'll be able to see our whole program, so you'll know what's happening when. And what we're looking at, our intention here is that I know we're all trying to boost our immune systems and we're all trying to stay super healthy. And there's some really specific things that we can do. So in about 15 minutes, that's why it's a pop-up, we're going to go ahead and kind of go over some of those real quickly to make it easier for all of us, to make it easier for you. Laura and I are both moms. I'm an empty nester, and we know that there's a lot of stress going on right now. So we're trying to make it easy and quick as possible. So I'm hoping that you will join us. And if you have any questions and you're not sure about it, please feel free to look at my Facebook page, which is Feel So Alive Marketing Group. And that's where this is showing originally, and I'll be posting information there to make it easier for you. Okay, and now the next speaker is Jamie Young, and she is just a gas. I think that you will enjoy her, and this is all about business and swag, and how do you do that when everything is virtual. So let's go ahead and listen to Jamie Young. Hi, I'm Robin Forster with Feel So Alive and Feel So Alive Informed, and I wanted to thank you for joining us today, whether it's live or on the replay. And I am really excited. Being a solo entrepreneur, I'm always trying to figure out how I can give back, and one of the ways is by having a business, a professional person who is also a solo entrepreneur, share some of their tips. And today I am very excited to have Jamie Young here. and she is the swagologist, which just cracks me up. But wait until you hear about what she has going on. And just real quick, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She is the founder of Jamie Young Swag and Strategy, creator of the Swag Strategy and Sales Formula, and events director for the Portland Women's Expo. And she lives to help her clients be more generous, stay top of mind, and boost their business. And I'm going to let Jamie tell you the story of where she started with this to where she is now, because it's really fun. So, Jamie, say hi to everyone.
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you so much for having me, Robin.
Oh, I appreciate you making time for us. And so the first thing that I want you to share with everyone is where you started from in the hospitality industry and how that got you to where you are now, and where is it that you are now?
Yeah. Well, I started out in hospitality, restaurants and hotels. I really thought I would like spend the rest of my life working in restaurants and hotels and running them. And the day that I got my dream job, I was promoted to general manager of my very own hotel, which I worked so hard for. I gave my 30-day notice. Because I was working 60 hours a week or more. My phone was ringing at 2 a.m. And when you're in the hospitality industry, it's 24 hours. And that brought me stress. And so I left and I got a new job in marketing and advertising, which was very new for me because the sales world and hospitality are very different. But when you bring them together, you get me. Um, I did, I went through a big transition in my life in 2013, and I had to take on 3 part-time jobs. And one of them was the Portland Women's Expo. I answered an ad for a part-time sales assistant position. I was already working at an insurance firm a couple days a week, and I was teaching fitness classes. And long story short, during this big reset transition at 32 years old, I fell into my dream job, which was running the Women's Expo. Within 2 weeks, I was promoted. I was the events director. Like, I don't think any of us thought that was going to happen, but I really loved what I was doing. And I really loved to help vendors grow their business and see an ROI. And my hospitality side of me, treating everybody like a guest, really kind of, I think, helped me in that position.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you're right. In the entertainment or the hospitality, sorry, business, you're trying to be very warm and gracious and welcoming, and that is a little different than sales.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to like a cold call, one call close. In that company, we weren't allowed to do follow-up calls. It was one of those environments of like, you don't buy it now, I'm calling you competition. So it was a very different world. I avoided using terms like that. I just like allowed them to say, yep, we'll get back with you. And then I would just call the next person on the list. But, I didn't use those hard tactics. I think I just came to it at a point of just professionalism because they're either interested or they're not, or they see value or they don't see value. So just showing up how they needed me to show up.
Nice. So I can't wait until you weave that into where you are now because that's going to be very
Ah,
fun. Okay, so you told us a little bit about how you got drawn into this line of work, but you didn't tell us how you started your own business.
well, we haven't talked about promotional products yet. We haven't talked about gifts and marketing and branded promotional products because during my time at this large trade show, I learned very early on that if my vendors don't have a great experience, they don't experience a return on their investment, that I have to work really hard the next year to replace them and still grow the show. And so it makes renewals easier, right? Each year, your job gets easier and easier. So I took that event from 12% renewal to 70% renewal in about 7, 8 years.
Wow.
And as the new girl, I was tasked with having to call every single vendor after the event to see if they'd like to book or save their spot for the next year and pay for it. And what I learned in those calls is what made that big difference was those who didn't have a great event, came to the event with no goals, no expectations other than brand awareness, right? So now when I hear someone doing something purely for brand awareness, that's not enough. You can't measure brand awareness. So the vendors that were renewing on the spot 12 months in advance, paying in full for their same exact spot, who saw incredible results, I had to ask them, well, what were you doing? What were you doing in your booth? What were your goals? What were you there for? And they gave me gold. They gave me gold for me to share with vendors who didn't experience great results so I could give them a plan. And I was getting immediate renewals from vendors that did not have a great show, that now saw an opportunity to come back with a plan to be successful. And what it was to identify, one, you need an engagement plan, right? When you're the most boring person at a trade show, like you're at a consumer event and you're a realtor or a mortgage broker, nobody really wants to come talk to you. Like you could have the best smile in the world, but people aren't, it's awkward to say, so how are you doing, right? Because it's your job as a vendor to engage them. But you also need measurables, right? Email addresses, social media follows, etc. So we figured out what their goals were. How did they want to market themselves? So if emails were important, that was the major goal. That was the ask. That was the ask. How do you incentivize people to give that to you? So that's usually a game, right? And then I would make recommendation for promotional products, right? This was a women's trade show. I'm female. I was 32 at the time. And so I just told them what I would want. Give them cool branded nail files or a pocket mirror or something that's going to float around in my purse for a year, right? So I would just make these recommendations and then, well, they just go buy it online. I mean, that's the option, right? But that didn't bother me because I wasn't a broker of promotional products. I just had a show that I wanted them to be a part of. So fast forward 6 years, I ended up getting remarried, and my mother-in-law was a promotional products broker who was getting ready to retire. And she kept saying, Jamie, I'm getting ready to retire. I want to give you my business. And I'm like, whoa. She's like, you'll be so good at this. I'm like, here's the deal. I have a job that I love. I'm totally fine. I was not interested. And this went on for a couple of years. She drugged me to a supplier trade show. Within 30 seconds, I knew I was getting in the business because this supplier trade show, the very first vendor was a supplier of trade show banners and tablecloths. And the next one was event giveaways. And I'm like, I already do this. But I send the business to other people because I make these recommendations. And so I still had a full-time job, so it was fine because this was just going to be a side gig. So at nights, I would go to some networking events. Nights and weekends and lunch breaks, I'd place orders and do quotes. And at the 10-month mark, I had to go to my boss and ask to cut back 2 days a week because I had so much business coming in. And my husband was having a hard time with me working nights and weekends. I had a new baby at home. So the exact 1 year mark of opening my business, I went to my boss at the Women's Expo and I said, I don't want to quit. I love what I do, but I can't be responsible for day-to-day duties anymore. So how do you keep your job, but not do your job? And we came up with an arrangement where I hired an assistant to do my daily administrative duties, and he hired my company to basically be responsible for booking vendors. And I did it for 2 years. We just did our basic follow-up emails and yeah. Anyways, so
wow. Well, what I'm thinking is that's helping us to figure out how you got to where you are.
Yep.
And And with your business now, you've had to pivot because of, COVID, and no one's doing events. So how did you pivot your business? And then if you could share, after you do that, share some tips and techniques that folks can take away, given that no one's doing events, and if they are, that's really small and 6 feet apart and all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, COVID really forced me to transition my business in a way that I've needed to do for a very long time. So it's one thing, so there's two parts to what I do, right? Here are promotional products, which are hard goods, but then there's strategy, right? Because so many people are like, well, what's the best swag for my business? What do I do with it? I don't think I can afford it. And I always want them to think of useful, unique, and unforgettable, right? So I pivoted into strategy. That's when product sales couldn't sell because literally those manufacturers were shut down, people were coming to me for strategy. They want to know, what's the best product? How do I earn new clients, renewals, referrals? And so those were the conversations. So my clients were hiring me for strategy. So a couple tips that I do have is make a list of your top 10. Okay. Your top 10 warm leads, right? Your top 10 clients. And I want you to reach out to them in a non-sales fashion, purely generous, purely wanting to just check in, see how you're doing, just drop a message in your box, just let me know how I can support you, right? This can be anything from a handwritten note to actual branded merchandise. Every time I do it, I get a new client. I did it in April when my business was basically shut down, and I got a $15,000 sale out of it. It happens constantly. So pick your top 10, show up generously in their mailbox, because nobody else is right now.
Interesting.
That's gift marketing. That is gift marketing. It's a form of marketing, but it's a generous form.
And that's one of the things we all need to do. I've been talking about on my Instagram lives in the morning about compassion and intention, and things that we need to look at, being compassionate with ourselves and self-care. And then what you're talking about, I can see that's just a matter of outpouring of our compassion and self-care for ourselves then to others also, so that we can attract the kind of people that we want. Is that kind of...
Yeah. Oh yeah. And think back to the last time you got a handwritten letter in the mail. How amazing did that feel? Right? It was a cost of time and a stamp. So just think about things like that and show, there are ways to grow your business in that same fashion.
Interesting. Oh, Jamie, this has been absolutely fabulous, but I'm watching the time and we're going over, and I know you have another commitment, so I don't want you to be late, but any last quick, really short, fast little things that you want to leave for everyone?
Yeah, reach out to me if you just want to find ways to show up generously, that's easy for you and thoughtful to your clients. I would love to support you from right where you're at. Over at Amy Young Swag and Strategy.
Excellent. And are you thinking about doing a Zoom webinar Q&A at some point?
I have a workshop that's coming up. I don't have a date set for it, other than it should be coming up here in the next month or two. But this is actually going to be a workshop where you could come, create your plan, and figure out the best swag for your business, the strategy to attach to it to create results, which would be getting new leads, converting warm leads, renewals in your business with an actual plan and strategy. And there's going to be bundles available. So you can actually say, I want bundle number 1. Everything's going to show up to your doorstep, so you can deploy the gifts and start growing your business.
Nice. Okay, and before we go, I'm watching the time and I'm going, oh no, just 2 more seconds. One of the things I was asking you, because I've been looking at your catalog and your website, and there's some stuff that's really appealing to me, and I'm very much in the green world, so looking at plastic is a big turnoff for me. But you've got some great green things,
Yeah.
but I don't want to buy 3 truckloads.
Neither do
No.
I. I have suppliers that will allow you to order as few as 12. If you're looking at more gift type items, you can get one-offs for sure. But in terms of the typical promotional products and branded merchandise, you can get 12 of them, or 50, or 25 of them. Absolutely.
Nice. And that's just a matter of talking to you, saying, "Ooh, I fell in love with something, but I don't want to buy a truckload,"
Yeah.
and just okay. Well,
I'm
Jamie,
basically a personal shopper for branded custom promotional products.
okay. Sorry, I was just looking at the Zoom window to find where I could turn off the recording, and I couldn't even see that it was recording, so I started to panic. So.
We're still here.
So I apologize, but there's always going to be a hiccup. That's just life these days. So, Jamie, thank you very much for your time. I appreciated this.
Thank you, Robin.
And now, I'm not sure if you can hear or not, but in the background, we're having concrete work done on our driveway. And so I can hear all of this thumping and other noises that have been going on. So I hope they were not distracting. I hope that you learned a lot from Jamie in terms of taking your business to the next level with swag, because she is amazing, isn't she? I mean, good grief, what experience and skill. And then Dr. Melanie with her breathing and sharing with us what it is that we're doing with our posture that's not such a good idea. Anyway, so I wanted to let you know how you can follow us. Join us the second and fourth Thursdays monthly. Now we're starting to come into the fall holidays, fall-winter holidays, so there's going to be some changes on some of the Thursdays, but I'll let you know about that. And we're at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Like us on our Facebook page and subscribe to us on YouTube. That way you'll get notifications. And I hope that you will try to track us down for the pop-up, because it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate you. And those of you who are watching us on the replay, I hope that you found value, because that's our intention. Thanks. Have a great day.